just kind of came up with this idea, had a dream of being underneath an iceberg and what that symbolized. Had no clue how to do it. Barely knew how to swim when I started, believe it or not.
Wow.
So it was a big challenge figuring out how to make it possible.
Yeah. He talks about how he just wakes up in the morning. First thing he does is do a cold plunge, and it would be nice to have that readily available. And now they do have those tubs or whatever where you can kind of keep it temperature
they're
controlled.
Expensive. Like $7,000 for one of those cold plunge tubs. I checked. Like for the high end ones, it's insane the prices that people will pay. But I guess they cater to like that like high tier athlete who kind of has the money to spend on something like that.
Yeah, but you could just buy an ice maker for like $500 probably, or just use your own home ice maker. I try to do that though. It's a little bit of a pain. And we're live. We're here with Luke Adams. I call you a filmmaker. Is that accurate?
Yeah. I would say adventure filmmaker would probably be the word for it.
Yeah.
/ marketer. But yeah, that basically covers what I do.
Yeah. And you have a firm that you market your services to different companies, which is how we became acquainted with. We have a very famous video commercial where a dude is jumping out of a helicopter in SHEATH that was put together by this man right here. Very cool stuff. But so we're both into these type of like biohacks and like cold plunging and meditate. Do you meditate?
Yeah, I do. I just started recently. Like it takes me a while to get into, but once I start, it definitely helps a lot.
So huge for stress and like just recalibrating everything. I run a multinational, international operation, and then you have your regular life and your friends and etc. It can get overwhelming sometimes, and it's the meditation. Especially if you don't sleep great, it's been powerful. How was your sleep?
It's good when I'm doing the cold plunge and the meditation stuff, but I notice the second I stop that, like it starts getting bad again. Where like I'll get some anxiety before I go to sleep, or I'm just like thinking about too many different ideas at once, and sometimes it's hard to shut off the brain, especially with like creative entrepreneurship. Like you just have so many ideas firing off.
Yeah,
time that like finding that ability to just like sit down, meditate with your thoughts and zone out, I think is just so helpful for being able to keep doing creative entrepreneurship for the long term. Yeah.
David Lynch, he made the show Twin Peaks. He kind of sold me on this transcendental meditation. He's a filmmaker. Maybe you've heard of him, David Lynch.
Sounds familiar. Yeah.
He made Twin Peaks, which was a show prior to you being born, probably. And I never really watched it, but it was a kind of a hit show on TV. And he's just a kind of far out there dude, but he really sold me on this meditation, the transcendental meditation, and just it revitalizes you. It kind of gives you just a centering, and then like I get energy. Yeah, I just said that, like energized, and but you can't really meditate right before bed because it might wind you up a little bit. But I do like this little 2-minute calm down, like meditate. So I'll basically do the meditation, but I only do it for like 2 minutes right before bed now. And it really just like slows everything down, get in bed. But you got like 2 minutes, 60 seconds, because if you do it too long, like I said, it might have the reverse effect and wake you up. So that's my tip for today. You're very young. I could be your dad, I think.
Yeah, 25. So
I'm 25. Okay, well, I'd be a young dad, very young dad, but like 19, because my daughter's 21. And
oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, so it's pretty close. But you've done some, like, I feel like I'm very impressed with you. You guys all, you've done a lot of really cool things so far. You just got back from Greenland.
Yeah, that was a really cool project that we just did. It was a mental health inspired short film that we brought you guys on, SHEATH underwear. So what it was swimming underneath an iceberg wearing only a pair of SHEATH underwear in 28-degree water, which was definitely colder than any of the cold plunges that I had been using and practicing in. But the idea behind it was really symbolizing facing visible battles that we all hide below the surface. So a lot of these like hidden battles that we don't talk about, especially men, for example, too, it's been taboo to speak about our own mental health. And I was doing some research on the topic too, and I learned that almost 50% of men don't share any of their mental health with anyone else in their lives, and that includes therapists, family members, and stuff like that. And I definitely like resonated with that statistic. So I wanted to do something to bring that topic to the surface and get more people talking about it. And just kind of came up with this idea, had a dream of being underneath an iceberg and what that symbolized. Had no clue how to do it. Barely knew how to swim when I started, believe it or not.
Wow.
So it was a big challenge figuring out how to make it possible, but ended up meeting the right people, hired a coach who's like the best free diver. And for those of you who don't know, free diving's basically scuba diving, but you don't have the oxygen tank. So you're doing a breathe up and then you're holding your breath and then swimming down, equalizing the pressure as you go deeper. And you're going up to like, my coach can go up to like 300 feet under on one breath. In Greenland, we were doing about 70 feet or so. So it wasn't crazy deep, but it was.
That's like seven, like how many pools is that? Like 7 pools or maybe like 6 pools deep.
Yeah.
Like the deep end of the pool.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah.
Your ears start getting all like pressurized, but continue. Sorry.
Oh no, yeah. So your ears will pressurize if you don't equalize, and even at like 15 feet, your eardrums will rupture if you don't properly equalize. But if you're doing it correctly, you shouldn't feel any pressure at all. It should feel pretty calm. So the trick you would do is essentially you'd plug your nose like that, and you would use your tongue, kind of flick it to the front of your mouth, and that would trigger your ears to open.
Really?
Pressing like the air pocket in your mouth and moving it into the ears.
Wow.
So that's like that was probably the hardest thing to learn, is how to deal with that pressure and how to consistently equalize. And it's something that's tough to do in warm water, but when you're in cold water, it's just like a whole nother thing. Because you're like, have so many other things to think about while you're trying to equalize.
That is fucking bananas. Because, 28 degrees, that's below freezing, people. It's 4 degrees. And, like, the fact that it's not, like, frozen over, I guess, has something to do with the motion or the salt. What?
Yeah, so it's the salt content of the water. And you'll see, too, once we release a full video, the first 6 feet, you get this like crystallization effect in the video, which it looks like we put a filter on purposely. It looks really good.
Wow.
But what that is it's the fresh water from the iceberg melting. And that water is about 33 degrees Fahrenheit. And then it mixes with the much colder salt water. So as we swim through it and displace it, it turns into a temporary solid state. So it's like essentially freezing around us and like forming these little ice crystals.
Whoa. That is so trippy. Because we haven't really talked about it. We know we planned it together in May-ish. Yep. And then it was like off to the races. And you took like a team of pretty significant filmers, and tell me about them briefly.
Yeah, so started with Luca Malaguti. He's Canada's best freediver. And I told him about the project probably in January. Yeah, I think January of this year.
Yeah,
and he's true. Like, this is going to be pretty close to impossible, but if you put it in, like, it'll be worth it. So he told me to fly out to Dominica, which is in the Caribbean. Completely different environment than Greenland, but he spent about a month there teaching me how to freedive. So we learned how to do breath holds and essentially hold my breath for 3 minutes and water temperatures that were much warmer there, but it got me the foundations of what I would need when we went out to Greenland. Then he basically followed up with me over the next 5 months and gave me like training exercises to do at home. And then we also had Dan Verhoeven, and he's like essentially the world's best underwater photographer and videographers. He just felt a personal like connection to the project and wanted to be a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Super stoked to have him. Probably one of the most talented people I've worked with in my life. I made him suffer through hypothermia a little bit to get some of the shots. Even in the wetsuit, like he was definitely shivering because we were doing some longer takes. And yeah, he didn't complain at all. He just stayed. He essentially would swim down before me, get to the position 50, 60 feet underwater, and wait for me to come down. And he was on breath hold too, so no scuba tank.
Oh, no scuba tank. I was just going to ask that. Wow. And how many takes did you do?
So we did probably over the course of a week, we probably did like 16 takes, I want to say, because we wanted to get different angles and different shots to all piece the story together. And occasionally I would get a take wrong. So I wouldn't even like come up early. I would still do the long dive, but I would like turn the wrong direction so it wouldn't match the shot before it. And then they'd basically be like, oh, we got to repeat that shot. Like,
wow.
Right now, get back on the boat.
Dude, you're like fucking Wim Hof and shit, because doing that, like that's the kind of shit he would do, swimming under frozen like ice sheets, and then like you're swimming under a whole glacier, right?
Yeah. And what we were worried about too, because we heard him talking about his experience swimming under the ice, and he kept the retina freezing.
Uh-huh.
We all thought that was going to be a huge possibility because I was going with no mask, essentially with my eyes wide open.
Oh my God.
And somehow like it just didn't happen. Like I could see perfectly clear when I was underwater, even without the mask, and there was no real pain in the eye area. Like I was definitely cold, but it didn't feel like my eyes were freezing at all.
That's so weird. Joe Rogan talks about how like your eyes can stay warm in freezing temperatures and how they don't. Like it's a glass, like
Yep.
there's moisture, but it doesn't freeze over, which is a very kind of powerful attribute of humans to our eyes. It's because our brain, I guess, is right there and it's keeping everything warm and, you know, from freezing over. That's insane. Well, so we want to break the stigma, I think, is kind of like where you were going with this video, because like 50% of men don't talk about their feelings. I'm not one of them. I am on the other 50%. I've been to therapy for years. I actually got like released from my therapist. He was like, "You're good," but I'm actually going to go back to another one in this lady, Jane Calm. Shout out to Jane Calm. But she's like booked out months in advance. So my appointment's at like the end of September, but well, sometimes it's good to talk to someone else about like your whatever feelings and stuff, because in your family, sometimes they don't get it. They don't understand. Anyways, you know, you might tell them and you should, but a therapist who's like not kind of related or has no interest in your life other than what you're telling them can give you an impartial. I think that was kind of like an impartial point of view. And I don't know, like what this stood out to me like huge in our brief conversation that we had. We had to like a little pre-session interview this month, and something that she said, "I understand where you're coming from and everything's going to be okay." I fucking started crying. I was like, that's all I really wanted to hear. I don't know why, like that I'm not crazy. My feelings are like valid or whatever. But also everything's going to be fine, you know? And then I was like, I don't even need a session now.
I know, just that one line, and I feel like just the validation of like one thing you're feeling can go such a long way. And most people, I feel like, don't get that if they're not talking about their feelings or asking for help. So they never really get that moment of clarity and validation.
Yeah. Damn it, I had something. Let me see. Well, yeah. Okay. So they don't fucking like, we have the weight of the world on our shoulders, like Atlas. But it's like, you're fucking like this business owning white man, like cry me a river, you fucking little bitch. And I'm like, you don't understand. We still have problems.
And that's the thing with like entrepreneurship in the early stages too, is you don't really have coworkers to share what you're going through. And even if you have employees, like let's say you have a small team of like 4 or 5 people, it's like you're in charge of them. You're supposed to be their leader. You don't have the same level of like
connection or
you would with a coworker, where you can really share what you're going through and what you're struggling with.
Yeah.
And something that I think like definitely needs to be solved for entrepreneurs and freelancers that work alone. Maybe they work from home and they don't have that opportunity to talk with coworkers as much as they would in a traditional 9-to-5 job.
Shout out to Into the Dark Blue, Zach, Jewel. He's doing these meetups at bars around the United States where guys can come, and it's kind of supposed to be like this open forum for expressing your feelings to another man over a beer, which is a little bit easier with I feel like at the beer, it kind of loosen you up a little bit, and then you start crying. Next thing you know, you're spilling your guts. But then that's all we really need to do to, like, you're going underwater, this is a metaphor, decompressing with your nose and all that. And that's what talking about your problems can do. And all that pressure can just release from your eardrums.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, that's why we, like you talking about like holding the weight of the world up on your shoulders. That's kind of the image where I'm completely underneath the iceberg and I'm holding it up like that. Wow. And it's like, so we were actually able to, the iceberg's like 50, 60 feet tall that we used in that shot. And we're moving it by just like pushing it like that. It's subtly moving because these things are super fragile. So you don't need a lot of force to like get it to start to spin and move. But like, it was kind of scary because like I felt this object on top of me along that deep underwater, and it starts like rolling a little bit, and it was just insane. But
you could have died.
Yeah, we had a really great safety crew though.
Okay, good.
Basically right behind the camera, so if I were to like black out, which wasn't a huge possibility, he would be able to come in and grab me and swim me back up to the surface.
Well, because you're not doing like Wim Hof breathing techniques while you're down there, obviously, because you're not breathing at all. But like, or even before, I know this is kind of a dark whatever, but this dude was doing the breathing techniques in his bathtub, and I've done that 100 times, and he like passed out and fucking drowned. It's kind of dark. So be careful with the breathing techniques.
Yeah, be careful with the Wim Hof technique, because what it does is it makes you it lowers the CO2 levels in your blood. So essentially CO2 is the urge to breathe. So you have less of that, but you have less oxygen, and you don't feel the oxygen dissipating because you don't have that urge to breathe with the CO2. So that's what causes you to push a little bit harder and go into that blackout territory. It's why if you've ever done the Wim Hof breathing, you could hold your breath for 3-4 minutes, but with a regular like breathe up, you'd probably only be in the 1 minute mark. But we did do kind of a modified Wim Hof breathing just because we needed it to deal with the cold.
That makes sense. Yeah.
But we did a modified version of it. So it wasn't full hyperventilating. It was just shorter breaths. And it wasn't like the full Wim Hof breathing.
Well, because so if anybody is unfamiliar with the Wim Hof, you take these giant kind of gasping breaths, exhale halfway, maybe full inhale, exhale halfway, do 20, 30 breaths. And then you exhale and hold and that's where you're holding your breath which is harder to hold your breath on an exhale than on an inhale, I think.
Yeah.
But then, so you're exhaling, you hold for as long as you can. I'm up at 8,500 feet elevation, so I can only do like a minute ish, which is when I'm at sea level, it's so much. I mean, I can double it like immediately. Wow. Yeah. At least. And then, but anyway, so the minute exhale, maybe it's 3 minutes if you're sea level, but then you do this inhale, hold, and squeeze. And that's when I'll get like, almost, I call it like a DMT trip or whatever. Oh, yeah. Okay, so you've had that.
Yeah. It feels almost like a psychedelic experience. Yeah. That's how it felt in Greenland too, on every one of the dives, just because you had that visual too of like what you were seeing, what you were feeling. It was like the most out of body experience without doing that.
That's fucking badass, ballsy, hardcore, and that's what we love. That's why we love working with you and people of that mind state, caliber, ambition, badass motherfuckers like Cowboy Cerrone. We got Brandon Marino just regained his championship belt with the UFC. It's an interim belt, but he's the champion, and he's going to be fighting Figueiredo for the fourth time. The first fourth fight of any two fighters. That is the first time it'll be like a fourth fight, and I want to see it anyways. They've been like razor thin each time. Are you familiar with them at all?
A little bit, not too much, but a bunch of my friends watch it all the time. So.
Yeah, you're busy. You're entrepreneuring, which at your age, you just said 25 to be doing as like these just big, ambitious movies and films. It's very impressive. I'll just keep reminding you. Yeah, because you keep on that trajectory, and like when you're 35 or whatever, you'll be just way ahead of like the class and all your peers. And SHEATH, I realized this yesterday because I've been watching this Tony Robbins thing, which is kind of where you guys came in. You guys watching? Yeah. We were talking about Tony Robbins right before because there's this free seminar he's been doing on YouTube, which it's kind of mimics his when you go in person and they're all clapping and jumping and getting all jazzed up. And then we started talking about the cold plunge, but I forgot where I was going with that. Where was I going with that, Luke?
I think you were talking about the just like entrepreneurship in general and the habits that.
Oh, right. Okay, so 10x, then my mind is crazy. I don't know, but anyway, so I was thinking about Grant Cardone because Grant Cardone talks about the 10x rule. Anybody?
Yeah, I've heard a lot about that.
Yeah. I mean, if you can 1x or 2x, can you 10x? Yes, you can. And then I started doing some calculations, and we at SHEATH have 10x'd twice.
Wow.
In our, since, the first year, essentially. So from year 1 to year 4, we 10x'd. And then in year 4 to now, we've 10x'd. And so every 4 years, it seems like we 10x. And if we do that again, 2 more times, get out of here. I'm going to buy a fucking spaceship to the moon, baby. But anyways, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just saying that whole Grant Cardone's kind of a polarizing face in the business world, I feel like, but that idea of picking a audacious goal that's seemingly impossible, I always think it takes 20% more work to do something like that than to take the average goal. So
it's only 20%.
Do a short film this year, and I'm I could just do a regular mental health inspired short film that's not too crazy, or I could just come up with this ridiculous idea that I have no clue how to get done, put in 20% more work and get it done, and the result is usually way more worth it than the extra 20%, if that makes sense.
No, totally. You put in 20% more work and then you get like 10 times the results or something.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of people will like not realize that it's only that much extra work. They think it's like 10x the work. Well, usually not. It's just going an extra step or two.
Thank you for bringing me back from the brink there. I've lost my train of thought like on a podcast. I hate when you can't get it back. You're like, all right, I guess we're just gonna change subjects completely because I don't know what I was talking about. And I was talking to this dude about. I was on his podcast and we were talking about all the success stuff and just like the fighter mentality of you got to put in all your eggs into that basket. And like, that's what I like about fighters and entrepreneurs is just that dedication to winning or success. It's very similar. If all of us put the type of dedication towards our goals that fighters put towards fighting, even if you're not even the best fighter, you might even be like not even in the UFC, but that hard work and dedication, maybe you're just not physically kind of gifted like some of these guys, but that hard work and dedication, then when you maybe don't make it to be the champion, you can transfer that work ethic into whatever goals you have. And I'm like living proof of that just in sports in general. And then you can touch on maybe if you have any experience with that, but like I wanted to be in the NBA. I played basketball every day, all day from 9 to 16, 17, when it kind of started occurring to me that I was a slow, white, short, non-jumping athlete. I could not keep up with the guys that were just more physically gifted. And so, but all that hard work, then when any other job I did, it was just natural. Like I'm busting my ass and I'm going to kill it because that's what I've always done. And in business, I like the field was leveled a little bit more. You don't have to be tall and be able to dunk. What about, did you have any kind of childhood sports or?
So I've always been into like extreme sports. So all through high school, I got really into parkour.
Nice.
When I got sponsored by like the World Parkour Free Running Federation. I was like really big into it. And then after that, I'm trying to think of what sport I got into next. I did Ninja Warrior a while back.
Really?
Yeah. So there was like a college edition they ran. So UConn, we competed as a team. We had 3 people go, and they flew us out to LA, put us up in these nice hotels. It was a really cool experience.
That sounds fun, just doing the course.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was a really cool experience, and it was like a race, so it was a little bit different than when you just have to finish the course on your own. Like they had 2 courses right next to each other. We went up against MIT, I think, for that, and
smoked them.
Or not, no, they smoked us. They were
what?
Like, yeah, it was it was pretty close, but like we just didn't expect it, like going out of the gate.
You think they're a bunch of nerds.
Yeah. They made us say that on the show too. The producer's like, "Oh, like you gotta, or we're gonna beat those nerds," or something like that. Just
That's
like
funny.
40 lines they fed us.
Right.
Yeah, it was surprising that worked out. And then after that, I got into. I've always been into like skiing and stuff like that, and got into skydiving at UConn probably my sophomore year.
Jesus.
And then after that, got into freediving. So just kind of like, I like having a range of different sports like that to try, because it really, you just like kind of go into the flow state. All of the sports like kind of unlock that flow state, and then it helps me be better in my business too. If I unlock the flow state on like a physical level, it helps on the creative side too.
100%. Yeah, dude, you're like so on point with all of your philosophies and I mean, just understanding of the flow, mentioning the flow state. Like I feel like most people, they just don't think about it or whatever, you're going through life, you're paying the bills, got shit to do. But if you can get into that flow state, it's so powerful and like time slows down. And how do I get into that right now? It's been like I feel like when I play chess, sometimes you're not thinking of anything else, ideally. I mean, so, but that's kind of what the flow state is like everything else is like black or whatever. And you're just focused on that one thing. People say like rock climbing sometimes because your life might have to be in danger. Basketball was my way to do it. Maybe a little bit of jujitsu when I can practice. It's hard to get people to come up here because I live kind of in a secluded area. But
which part of Colorado are you in again?
It's Woodland Park, Colorado.
My friend actually just moved to. She's going to Colorado State now, so she's in like the town that's like associated with that. I don't know exactly where that is. State.
There's a couple. Well, I think CSU. I don't know if that's Colorado State University. That there's like one in Denver. There's one in.
Oh yeah.
There's a few
schools there.
Yeah, yeah. Woodland Park. We just opened a store here. If you guys are ever driving through, and we're like one of the drive-through cities to get to Aspen and Breckenridge. Really? Yeah. So we 30,000 cars drive through. We're off the main road, thankfully, obviously, because I would hate to be on there. It's like quiet and birds are chirping and stuff. But 5 minutes down the road, there's this main highway or whatever byway to get to the major ski resort towns. And we opened a SHEATH store. It's mainly a warehouse. We mainly ship all of our online orders, which were sold in over 100 countries. You can go there and check it out. If you haven't visited sheathunderwear.com, you should do that. And this is non-segue and not even related to you, but this was an interesting thing that happened yesterday. We're super into the UFC. I am. And so we sponsor all these fighters, blah, blah, blah. Well, there's a company called Howlerhead. They make whiskey. And they're all over the mat on the UFC, like not all over, but like they're one of the mat placeholders on the UFC. And Dana White is part owner. He's the president of the UFC. And we sponsor a lot of the fighters in the lower division, like Fury and LFA and Colorado Combat Club, these smaller organizations. And anyways, I could go a long way, but so do they. And now they want to do. We sponsor the Ring Girls, so the Ring Girls walk around and she.
Oh yeah, I've seen all the videos on that.
But they wanted that, and my team, the agency, and we have we locked in a deal with them, and so obviously we have a deal to do that. But they want that, so now they're like, well, can we collaborate with them? And so we're gonna collaborate, most likely with this huge. To me, it's a huge company. I don't know how huge it is. Howlerhead whiskey. And so we're going to maybe do like a collab with them, which it's kind of like what we've, in a way, what we're doing with this pair that we're releasing, the Iceberg pair, that you went under the Iceberg with, and which, you're going to be putting out to all these media sources that I know you already got some response because you sent me those pictures where it was kind of featured on Fox, like a little teaser.
Yeah, definitely. We haven't even started going too hard with it yet, but it seems like a lot of people are picking up the story and really like it so far. So Adweek should be putting out a story, hopefully either today or next Friday, which will be a good one.
Yeah, this is I'm fascinated with it. Anytime we put out like ice plungy kind of content, the numbers are up. People like ice. Shit is in, like cold plunging and ice therapy, whatever is hot right now. And so I'm loving. I really want this to go like super viral.
Yeah, definitely. Me too.
It should.
Yeah. That's what we're banking on right now for sure. Well, at least we were able to get the pair of underwear because we almost didn't have that. The one sample pair to shoot with. And
that would have been horrible. When you called me and told me that or texted me, I was like, I didn't even get the full story, but you forgot the pair in Iceland.
Well, so we had a luggage mix up at the airport. So normally I would have put this in like the, not the carry-on, but the check bag. And I had it in the check bag, and then I moved it into the carry-on. And basically my carry-on was a little bit too big.
Mm-hmm.
So last minute they said that I had to check it.
Yep.
And didn't make it on our flight. So,
oh my God.
It was just like I was freaking out because I was like, when's the next flight? Wednesday. And we had already had luggage problems with Iceland Air. So one of our guys, our aerial like drone director of photography, none of his stuff made it. He had a backpack on him when he flew to Iceland, and he never got his stuff for the whole trip. So it's good that we essentially we had someone that stayed in Iceland that flew out with the luggage, with my luggage anyway. And if we didn't do that, we would not have had the pair of underwear to shoot with.
Yeah, then you would have fucking had to been, I don't even know what you would have worn. You would have buy some.
I don't know.
What's that?
Some CGI.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of SHEATH, but we just didn't have that one pair, so that would have been.
That's true, man. That would have kind of sucked for the the outcome, which you acted fast. I guess you like coincidentally had someone still in Iceland that flew the pair to you.
Yeah, so my coach's girlfriend, she wanted to come to Greenland, but like just couldn't work it out. So she was just staying in Iceland, basically planning on staying until we got back from Greenland. Then we just called her like as we were boarding the plane, and we're like, hey, do you want to come to Greenland? And then she just flew out. Like it was 3 days later because there wasn't like another flight for 3 days. So our shoot time got cut in half.
Oh, wow.
But like anxiety levels those first few days were like through the roof. Which because I was like embodying the character that I was playing in the short film. And it was like not only like just the pair of underwear, but it was also the water was so much colder than we anticipated. And the first day we got there, we were a little bit sleep deprived. We all jumped in the water at like, I think it was midnight. Like we got there, we're like, let's take the boat out. It's midnight, the sun's still out because it's above the circle. And we jump in the water, and the air temp's like below freezing too. And I'm just like, this project will not happen. Like there's no way we can do this. I can't even like hold my breath for like 10 seconds that first night. And because it was just so cold, and I'm like, I'm not used to this. It feels like our like blood is freezing from the inside out.
Oh my God.
And it was just rough. It was like, I had to like really sit down the next day and just like think through why I was doing the project and try and push through. And my coach actually helped a lot with that too. Cause I didn't like tell him the anxiety I was facing, but he kind of realized and like took me through a guided meditation and some breathing exercises and helped me visualize what I was about to do.
So I love when someone recognizes you are like not quite right. And they're like, instead of you having to tell them, they know. And then like they already know. And so we don't have to go through that whole thing. Let's just start fixing it. And I love, and I feel like I read people's body language pretty like, and pretty well. Like I can, especially people I know well, I'm like, okay, what's wrong? Just what's wrong? What's up? You're not acting normal. Talk to me. And I really wish sometimes, because I'm like an open book, and if I can put it on here, like if I'm having a bad day or whatever, I can like turn it off. Thankfully, I used to not be able to do that. It would just drag into everything. But like at my home, if I'm like feeling butthurt or whatever, it's like my feelings got hurt or something. It's just fucking, will you please just like ask me, and then we can move on instead of me like having to complain. I don't want to complain. Yeah. But like we have these interactions with people, and something maybe, I don't know. Well, triggered, like maybe it's like triggers. That's such a like a lefty, snowflakey kind of thing. I'm triggered, but fuck, I get triggered. And it sucks. And because then you have to like go through that process of like dealing with whatever fucking stress that the trigger caused, but it's usually manageable. And it's, I don't know. People get triggered. Do you get triggered?
Yeah, occasionally, like just like random things will kind of like set me off and make me more upset than I should get. Typically, like if like project details don't line up, or if there's like some like curveball that gets thrown into a project last minute.
I get it. Mine's usually personal conflict that I hate fighting, and it might be with like my brother or my wife or daughter. It's like everything else I don't really care about. Like, I mean, I lost 50 grand in the fucking Bitcoin last month, and it didn't faze me as much as if, my wife doesn't say I love you back or something.
Yeah. No, I get that. That's
what are you
definitely focusing on what's important. And I'm curious too on your side, like how you keep that separation from your business life and your personal life, when I'm sure the two are pretty like intermingled.
Yeah, they're the same thing.
Same here.
Same there.
Yep.
Yeah, it's my emotions are tied to how well the business is doing. I've gotten a lot better about it though, because now we're like 10 years in, and I have methods for stimulating sales. For instance, so like if we're having a low sales day, we have an email, we could just throw a sale on the site, we can do a text now, we can do a social media, like blah blah blah. We have a lot of methods for hitting the numbers we need to hit. So, and I'm just like 10 years in.
Yeah.
The sleepless nights worrying about the shipment that's supposed to be arriving that hasn't, and you're out of inventory, and like, how the fuck are we going to make money when it's right there. The inventory is like on a truck, but we need it here. And I've just learned how to deal with a lot of those things over the years through the experience. But when it comes down to it, like when I'm like really stressed or whatever, now I know how to meditate. And I went and trained with this dude, John Dewey. He learned from like the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, who taught the Beatles and a bunch of other people. And it's the transcendental meditation. And it just really allows me to zone out, kind of like it's just you go to a 0 point place, no thought, and that helps because when you're overthinking, obviously it's usually all thought. Everything is thought, anyways. All the stress is all in your head.
Yeah.
What do you do?
So yeah, I'm like pretty like intermingled with my business. Like it's basically just my life at this point, which is good most of the time because it's like really fun work what we get to do, and like most of the projects we do are super fun.
Mm-hmm.
What I have noticed is like half of my friends are business owners like me, so they have that same lifestyle and same mindset. But then my other friends, I kind of wish I had like their mindset with the whole 9 to 5, where they could just work and then shut off completely afterward.
Yeah.
And like fully relax and like enjoy the weekends without any work coming in. So it's always hard to like see that and like kind of want that, but also realize like the benefit to the business and integrating that lifestyle fully. Because if we treated a business like a 9 to 5 and just like didn't think about it at all when we weren't working on it, I think that's where like issues would start to present itself.
Yeah, people sometimes say like, turn it off or whatever. Don't like, but if I do that, then and I don't pay attention to these sales, or maybe there might be a reason. Like I check the sales 10 times a day, and there's a couple of times over the years where one of our employees accidentally took all the inventory, zeroed out all the inventory, so nobody could buy anything. And we're like, why aren't we getting any sales? Like, what? This is weird. Like a couple hours go by, and it's like if I wasn't monitoring it, and it's a lot of it is just a constant monitor.
Yeah.
But it's first thing in the morning. I mean, it is first thing. So first I don't check Instagram. I don't check TikTok, but I check my sales.
That's good.
Then I meditate. And if something needs to be done by the time I'm done meditating, I'll have like an answer or kind of some kind of plan to deal with whatever. Yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but it is the intermingling. It's just, I need a vacation. I want to go somewhere, but it's not like I don't trust my team. They're just not, they're almost ready. Like the dude I have a guy that's been mirroring me for like a couple of years now with that. And he like basically runs the company on all of the back end shit that we need to make operational, anything, and not like throw a sale on, send an email out, order product, and I'm just like watching him do it and like don't do that, do this, or blah blah blah. And but he's almost ready. The only thing left is just like being proactive on hitting. We just have to hit these numbers. We have to hit a certain revenue per day for everything to keep flowing. And he's almost there. He's kind of getting it, because now he's like texting me, do you think we should do this or this? And I'm like, okay, good. That's what, yes. Yeah, go ahead and do that.
We'll start like thinking of creative problems, solutions.
Yeah, solutions.
Yeah, solutions.
But are you like, do you have a team, or
I have a small team. I have a business partner who's part-time, who runs the finances and operation side of it. Like taxes and stuff like that. It's not my specialty. Nice. And then I actually just hired my first full-time person. I was super picky, like, because I went through a lot of editors and like filmmakers who they were great technically, but they didn't have the storytelling aspect down. This person I just hired is a little bit newer to the technical side, but he immediately gets the whole storytelling aspect and he can weave a story together. So I've been training him slowly. He's starting to take on projects like all on his own that we do, like kind of the smaller business stuff, but slowly working him up to bigger and bigger projects as we go along. And then other than that, we like to keep it like a very small team, so low overhead, and then hire like the best people per project. So
per project,
I like work that. Build out a team of like 5 world-class people for like a week or 2 week long project. And sometimes we'll work with them like a few times a year. Some we'll work with a few times a month. Like I have a writer that I bring on most projects.
Yes.
That too, but I've noticed it's just better that way, because the best people are like $100 to $150 an hour, and hiring them full-time would be like cost prohibitive at this point.
That's so genius. Good job on that. That's how we ran our company for the many years. And last year we just fucking murdered. And so we were making so much money that it's like, you get a car, you get a car, you get a car, everybody. And then, and we really bloated our team to where we had like 2 of these guys, 3 of those guys. And I'm like, okay, we're going back to 1 of each. And it's still almost, I'm like tempted, but to have, to cut it further, and have them on just as like a per project basis. But it's weird when you hire someone, you hate firing someone. Nobody likes firing someone. And when you give raises, you can't take them back.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Yeah.
So it's like, I'm paying you way more than you need to be paid right now. Or, oh man. Anyways, you guys know what you're talking about if they're watching. I feel like a lot of the views on these videos are my own team. And which is cool. I like that they watch because they can get a clue kind of what, and I tell them,
Yeah.
we have meetings, twice a week, every week, which before I started meditating and really like taking care of myself, we would go months without meetings because I was like such a mess. This is like not that long ago either.
Yeah.
Like 2-3 years ago, I was just too scattered or inconsistent. My energy I would just be a fucking mess because I couldn't sleep. It was mainly because
that's everything.
Yeah. So now we got a sleep number bed a couple of years ago. That's not why I sleep better, but it tracks it, and I can see my score like slowly going up. And now I'm finally, for the past couple of months, I get like 8 hours a night. Now it takes me like 10 hours because I'm restless for like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
But that went from like 2-3 hours of restlessness and to like it's going down to like it's like an hour of restlessness. And yeah, it's fucking. So these micro improvements. Were we talking about atomic habits?
Yep, atomic habits. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I get that too with like the inconsistent energy thing, especially like because I get the flow state like a few times a week, which is great, and I'm usually able to get all of my work done within that time. But the issue is when I'm not it's like basically all or nothing with me. If I'm not in the flow state, my energy levels are like dipped, they're turned down. And it usually has to do with my sleep too. Like if it's a really good week, I'm getting a lot of sleep, like I'm basically good to go the whole week. And it's a little bit more consistent. But I've noticed like when it's more consistent, I almost get into the flow state a little bit less, it feels like. I don't know how I would explain that, but it just seems like that's something I've noticed.
Well, I mean, for me, like I haven't done an ice bath. It's related, and you'll see why in a second. But like, well, I haven't done an ice bath in a minute. Actually, no, I just confused myself. But because I have been sleeping better. But if you're taxed, if you haven't been sleeping good and whatever, like getting in an ice bath to me, it can almost like hurt, and it's like way more painful than it would be if you slept well and you're maybe did some Wim Hof shit, you're pumped up and ready to go. You can get sick. I've heard people getting sick from that, like where they say if your immune system starts to like get lower, then you should stop with like the cold therapy for a bit. Yeah. That's what I've heard, but it's good for prevention when you are healthy. Right. It builds up the resistance to stress. That's so key. Like you do an ice bath first thing in the morning or whatever, the rest of your day is a breeze. Yeah, exactly. And I stopped the whole like cold shower thing for like a month after I came back from Greenland. I'm like, I never want to think about cold water again. And I think that's why I was saying with the inconsistent energy levels, I really think that has a lot to do with it, because I just started again like a week and a half ago every day. And I just feel so much better throughout the day just from that little action. Tell me about what you do then. What was that? Tell me, what do you do exactly that you just do, so like a hot shower? Well, I just keep it cold the whole time now. Okay. It's like, it doesn't get that cold. It's probably 60 degrees, maybe a little bit less. So it's definitely not like ice cold, but it still like wakes me up. And I notice like the warm shower, just like after that, I get lethargic. I lose a little bit of energy. Yeah, it's a weird feeling with that now, where I basically like have to take a cold shower if I want to start my day off the right way. Oh, I love that. But like, run me through the morning then. Like, I know you don't just jump in the shower the first thing, or do you? I've started to. I try and drink like 3 cups of water, and then just start with that. And then I'll work out at the end of the day now. So essentially, what I do is whenever I wake up, and it doesn't have to be super early. I usually try like 6:37. Yeah. Sometimes it's as late as 8. Yep. First thing I'll do is drink a bunch of water. Then I'll jump in the cold shower. That's like my caffeine. That's my morning cup of coffee. So no coffee then?
No coffee.
You,
Sometimes
you,
Red Bull, but I'm trying to get off Red Bull.
yeah, good,
Um,
good.
and then I'll immediately start with like my most important task of the day. So I try and like do a deep work session and something that's like not urgent, because I've read in like a bunch of time management books that you should be focusing on the stuff that's going to like give you rewards 5 years from now. And a lot of people put that off. So that's what I work on first. So it's like, you know, long-term work on the business. Right now we're just like working on redoing our whole website. So typically I'm either working on that or like just some long-term like business moves. So we're looking at doing some real estate development projects for like Airbnbs out of shipping containers and stuff like that. So that's like my basically creative flow time first thing in the morning. And then I'll basically start my day after that with all the other stuff.
Like emails or bills or like,
yeah, emails or usually like emails and bills I do at the end of the day. I really like after that, I'm either editing, meeting with my team, like giving them notes on edit or doing productions. So that's like how I usually like to structure my day.
I like it.
More consistent with that too, because what I've noticed is sometimes I'll do like an 18-hour day where I'm feeling really great, and then the next day is like a 5-hour day or even shorter. Trying to make sure my days look more linear over time.
Yeah, consistency is kind of discipline, and it's all like that. All over time, you know, will project you in, you know, to success or whatever. Just that we were talking about atomic habits and just making these little micro improvements over the course of your life can really steer your ship in the right direction. And instead of trying to be like, I'm going to change overnight, you know, it's like that never works. If it has ever worked for any of you.
And I think that's something that a lot of like young entrepreneurs like aspire to, is that overnight success. And I know a lot of people who have talked about, oh, like I hit like 10, 15K profit their first month essentially. And they're out of business in 3 months because they're not thinking long term. They're optimizing for those like short term moves. And what happens is if you're optimizing for short term moves, you're usually create value for your like stakeholders or whoever you're working with, your clients, your employees and stuff like that. So I've always been a fan of like slow organic growth, which is basically what we've been doing. And because I've been at it for like 5 years now, it's really grown to a really, really great point. And it feels a lot more stable than if like I had hit this number my first month in business.
Yeah. And, you know, and people want to take that money, you know, well, we made $1 million, you know, and I barely see any of the money personally. I mean, I see enough of it, but I try not to, I take this little profit from the company as possible and keep the profit in the company. People want to go buy a fucking new car or something like, I'm trying not. I mean, I have a nice car, but what's that?
I said, yeah, I'm so cheap with like my personal life, like the business I'll spend. I pay so little out of the business right now just because I like putting it back in. And I think that's where people like get trapped, is they bring up their personal overhead with fixed expenses. So they get like an expensive mortgage or rent payment and then an expensive car payment too. And that's something that like if you have a bad month, you can't just like say, oh, I'm not going to do this month like you would a vacation or going out. So I'm all about like, spending on variable expenses, which usually are experiences, because that way, like you have an amazing month and you make your like, profit goal by like, hey, you take some of that money and spend it, and it won't be the end of the world versus getting trapped in a long-term payment.
Exactly. Very smart. Like I said a couple of times, you're making the right moves. You have the right mentality. You got the work ethic, and just I feel like you are set up for success, and you're doing it yourself, and you're doing it right. So kudos to you, sir.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you for coming on. I'm really excited to see the final product of the Iceberg swim underwater and all that. And that when is all that going to be like dropping? I know about, but tell everyone.
Yeah. So that should be dropping like September 15th, sometime in mid-September, around that week. And we're doing it for Suicide Prevention Month specifically with the short film. And then we're also going to be dropping some teasers and promos with SHEATH around that time too. So more of the specific show underwear design and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Really good design. So I think
it's a really good design. And just so you all know, a good portion of the profits are going to be going towards your company for just the production of everything. And then Movember, we've agreed, but like there's a couple of details, but hopefully that'll run smooth, and we'll be hopefully breaking the stigma from men's mental health, and just that people can express their feelings and not feel ashamed about it or whatever. We all go through
it. That's the number one goal. Like we really just want to change that stigma, bring the topic to the surface, and get more people talking about it. But like also, if you buy the underwear, it supports men's mental health awareness research that Movember is doing. So 25% of the proceeds will go to that.
Exactly.
But also people could help by just sharing it with people they think could benefit from hearing the message. I think that's like really the end goal that I'm looking for, is more people talking about the issue and the topic.
Yeah, it's important. And, with all the weirdness in the world, which is probably less weird than the news would make it out to believe, but there's them weirdos out there that are like losing their minds. And if we can kind of reel them in, be like, it's okay. I understand. Everything's going to be okay. And they'll be like, put the guns down and let's all just get along and prosper. We do have a great country, world, opportunity. There's we just need to work together and build each other up instead of tearing each other down and shit like that, So
exactly.
This is a move, or at least one step in that direction. And we're glad to be a part of it. Thank you for bringing the opportunity to us. We look forward to seeing the final product. I want to see, you sent me the preliminary, what do you call that? Where you sent
the teaser?
Yeah. The thing you sent at in January, probably, where you did all of the
the pitch video, explaining.
Yeah. And that was mind blowing. A lot of the just preparation that you put into it, and so I know it's gonna be fucking badass. So I'm super excited for that. Do you have anything else? You're Luke Adams on the socials, and what's your website?
Luke Adams on Instagram, and then the website is a company named Story Real Studios, and our website is storyreal, REAL.co. So we don't have a .com, it's just .co as in company.
I like it.
Yeah, that's how you could find us.
And what was it, Luke Adams? Luke Adams on it on Instagram.
At Luke Adams PK on Instagram. PK. So PK as in parkour, because that's when I made my Instagram. Was when I was big into that. But I really appreciate you guys being a part of the project too. I think if I were to pick any brand, I think you guys fit the mold perfectly of what you believe in and your mindset. And it's rare to find that in a brand that wants to do something outside of making a profit. So it's great to have you guys on board.
Thank you. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for your time. And thank you all for watching. Hope you get something out of it. We'll see you next week with another one. Peace.